Welcome, Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, to TV Toastmasters Club 9523. The meeting's now in session. We'd like you to join us, to those of you out in the TV audience. We meet on the first Thursday at 6 p.m. and the third Saturday at 9 a.m. each month in the Henderson Center. That's at 7850 5 Mile Road in Henderson, Ohio. We have a great time, so once again, we'd love to have you join us. This is the second of our holiday meetings, so today's meeting will have a holiday theme. And as many people in the club know, I love Christmas. I love the holiday season. I have a 5-year-old, so we've got a whole list of things that we've got to do during the Christmas season. So as I'm checking off my checklist up here, we've already been to see Santa Claus, so he's put in his requests with Santa Claus, which was good. We got the obligatory picture, which is, as you all know, extremely expensive. The most expensive single picture you will ever buy is a picture with your child and Santa Claus. He's going to see the Holiday Follies this Friday with his class, so I don't have to take him to see that myself. That's a production the Children's Theater Cincinnati puts on every year. We went last year, just him and I, and it's a very entertaining production for young toddlers. We are not going to the Festival of Lights because at the Cincinnati Zoo we went last year and it was extremely cold because of course you go at night, and it just left such a bad memory that I decided we are not going back to the Festival of Lights for another couple of years until I can recover from that very cold night of sitting out waiting for the train to come. And the funny thing, of course, you can imagine with a toddler, we're waiting in line to ride the train. Just as we get up there, my son says, "Daddy, I have to go potty." So I'm thinking, should we wait? Should I risk it? Or should we get out of line? And of course, I didn't want to risk it, so we got out of line, and we had to come back and wait again. And finally, he's written his letter to Santa, but that's just the first draft, so we have to clean it up a little bit before we actually send off the official Santa letter. And the other unfortunate thing is my son doesn't like any of the great holiday shows that I grew up with, like Charlie Brown Christmas, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, I think it was The Year Without Santa Claus. All those great shows I loved, he just has no interest in. There's something about those shows and the stop-motion animation maybe that he really doesn't get into. So unfortunately, we've got to find a new set of shows for the younger generation. But that said, I really do love Christmas, and I'm really looking forward to a couple speeches today, which apparently have a Christmas theme to them. So I think you will definitely enjoy today's show. And we will get started by bringing forward our Tabletopics master, who will be Rick Barron. Rick?
Thank you, Darren. While Darren's all excited about Christmas, we just turned the calendar over to December, and I started thinking about New Year's. And as I started reflecting on New Year's, one of the things I was wondering was, what is your New Year's resolution going to be for next year, Carol Kormalink? Carol Kormalink, what is your New Year's resolution going to be for next year?
Thank you, Mr. Topics Master and fellow Toastmasters, and our welcome guests in the audience and at home. My desire for next year is that you see less of me. That physically, right. And I've been on a program where I've lost 10 pounds and 17 inches, and I said, that's really nothing. Next year at this time, if I'm even less than that, then I'll be a success. But anybody can go on a diet or a program, protocol, and lose weight. The trick is keeping it off. I've lost hundreds and thousands of pounds, but keeping it off. So that will be when I will determine how successful or unsuccessful that I have been in my new protocol on eating healthier. And I was at Whole Foods today. They had a Vitamix demonstration. I have a Vitamix, and I do make smoothies in the morning. You can make so many nice raw things, and they're giving a $50 discount right now. It was really neat to see all these things. In fact, I'm going to have company for lunch tomorrow, and I'm going to demonstrate the Vitamix and grind up the carrots and the pepper and everything to make a wrap. And I have the wrap, and so they'll see it freshly made with all the good ingredients. And I told the lady she had a visual that showed the two different bodies, and the one that has all the junk food has the cutaway, and you can see all the junk, the Twinkies, and that guy's like this big, and the other guy who's eating the healthy food, he's got a good physique and all that, and there's quite a bit of difference in your health, how vibrant you feel when you're eating healthily. Mr. Tabletopics Master.
Thank you, Carol. To continue on the theme of new, I was wondering what new toy, gadget, or piece of clothing do you want to get for Christmas, Darren Henderson? New piece of toy, clothing, or something of that nature?
Thank you, Mr. Tabletopics Master. I'm definitely a gadget person, and a perfect example of that is I have an iPad. It's the older generation iPad, but I think it's still less than 2 years old. And I'm such a gadget person that I was in the store the other day. They've got this new Kindle Fire out. And even though the iPad does everything that the Kindle Fire does, I picked it up, I held it in my hand, and it's a lot smaller than an iPad. And I thought, you know, this would be really nice to read books on. And I really talked myself into convincing my wife that I needed a Kindle Fire for Christmas, despite the fact that I already have a fine iPad. And I actually did get to the point of saying, you know, I think I know what I want for Christmas. I think I want a Kindle Fire. And then, of course, I got a barrage of, why would you need another device when you already have an iPad, which works fine, which is less than 2 years old? And I tried to give these perfectly rational reasons why I needed one, because the iPad is used for this set of functions, and the Kindle Fire is used for this set of functions. And as I heard myself speaking, I realized how ridiculous it sounded. So, that said, I've given up the desire to have a Kindle Fire, and I will stick with the iPad. But I'm still in my mind thinking, and to tell you what, I really kind of halfway gave up on the Kindle Fire, because I thought to myself, well, I won't ask my wife to buy a Kindle Fire this year for Christmas, because that means I can upgrade to a different iPad that much sooner. So I kind of talked myself out of the Kindle Fire, but I kind of had ulterior motives also. So, Tabletopics Master.
Thank you, Darren. It sounds a little bit to me like you are using the similar kind of logic that your son may use when he's going through creating his list for Santa Claus, trying to justify the things that he puts on his list based on the toys or clothing or other things that he already has. So it'll be interesting to see if that logic pays out for you, because I'm sure it'll probably pay out for him. One more table topics question today. And I was thinking about new beginnings. Chris Tehan, can you tell us about a new beginning that you've had recently?
Thank you, Mr. Tabletopics Master. New beginnings. A recent new beginning for me and my family is moving to Cincinnati. We've moved quite a bit over the past 7 years. And in a previous icebreaker speech, I talked about the fact that we had lived in 4 states, in 3 homes in 4 states in 7 years. So this is a new beginning for us here in Cincinnati, and for me, I hope it becomes an old hat that hopefully we're here for the very long time and set down roots. This has been something new for me because I grew up in Columbus, and you'd think that living so close in Columbus to Cincinnati, it would be very similar, but it's actually quite different. Columbus is very flat and is a very different type of city, a newer city. And it's very kind of urban sprawl and a lot of developed neighborhoods and large developments of neighborhoods. Whereas Cincinnati is very hilly, of course, and has a lot of pockets of neighborhoods, and that's something that was kind of surprising to my wife and myself, even though I grew up in Columbus and had been here many times, but only downtown for Reds games and Bengals games. So that's my new beginning. Mr. Tabletopics Master.
Thank you, Chris. Outstanding. That concludes the table topics portion of our meeting today. I'll return control back to our Toastmaster, Darren Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Tabletopics Master. At this point, we'll move on to the prepared speech portion of our meeting. And our first speaker today will be Chris Tehan. And this is actually Chris' second speech in the Competent Communicator Manual. And the title of his speech is The $102 Turkey Dinner. Please welcome Chris Tehan.
Thank you. How many of us have been pulled over for speeding and gotten one of these? How many of us have been pulled over a lot of times for speeding? My cousin. Well, this happened to me on Thanksgiving Day, driving up I-71 to Columbus to have the Thanksgiving meal with my family. I should have known better than to be speeding on a day like that, where the holiday where the cops would be out in full force. But hindsight is 20/20. This was my first speeding ticket in a long time. And rather, or more so than the fine itself, the $102 fine itself, I think I was more upset about the incredible streak that I had just broken, given that my wife believes I have a major lead foot, and I was always able to say, hey, have I ever gotten a ticket? That's what I was more upset about than the $102 fine. I couldn't say that anymore. Why do we get so nervous when we get pulled over? It is just a speeding ticket. It is no big deal. Unless you have a bunch of dead bodies in your trunk, of course, then it's a big deal. It is a common occurrence that happens to people daily, and we shouldn't get so nervous or upset about it. I'm going to instruct you on how to best handle getting a speeding ticket with 3 simple steps. Number 1, be courteous and respectful to the police officer. Look him or her directly in the eye when speaking to them. Do not make a lot of shifty, quick movements. Police officers are a little edgy about that. They don't like to see a lot of sharp, quick movements while they're approaching the car. Be direct and honest when answering questions. A simple yes or no will do. They don't need to know your life story. Insulting them is generally frowned upon and is not going to make them think you are just a misunderstood citizen with an out-of-control gas pedal. Number 2, do not offer up a bunch of lame excuses. You were speeding, you got busted, live with it. They've heard them all before. Do you think you're the first one that's told them that you're late for a flight at the airport? Excuses are likely to make your situation worse, as the officer thinks that you're insulting their intelligence. Lame compliments on the officer's appearance and job performance aren't going to work either. Number 3, take your medicine that you are inevitably going to receive from your spouse with grace. I will repeat, you were speeding, you got busted, live with it. The only proper response to anything that your spouse says is, you are correct, dear. Just hope that you are not too far from your destination so that you can distance yourself from your spouse as quickly as possible. Unfortunately for me, we were going to spend a day with my family where my wife could regale the whole family again and relive the episode over and over again, blow by blow. So the next time you get pulled over by the police for speeding, remember, be courteous and respectful when speaking to the police officer. This is also probably a good rule for anybody in the general vicinity, i.e. your spouse. Do not offer up a bunch of lame excuses that the police officer will not buy. Take your medicine from your spouse as you screw it up. One note on this speech, though. If you get pulled over for something else than speeding, say like drug trafficking, these 3 steps are probably not going to help you. I will say the worst part about the whole experience was the next time my wife tells me to slow down, I can no longer say, hey, have I ever gotten a ticket? Thank you, that's fine.
Thank you, Chris. I have to admit, I've gotten my share of tickets. Not too many, but a few. But you're right, there's nothing sweeter, nothing with, I hate to say this, I hate to admit it, even though there was money out of our pockets, I was actually somewhat amused my wife got a speeding ticket because I finally had a rejoinder, a comeback. After the years of me getting tickets, finally I had something on her. So I have to admit that was a good feeling. All right, we'll have 1 minute of silence so that the evaluator can finish his evaluation of Chris' speech. Got 1 minute, Madam Timer. Our next speech will be a real treat for those of you who also love the Christmas season. Rick Barron will be giving a speech from the storytelling manual. This is Project 1, and the title of his speech is How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Please welcome Rick Barron.
Thank you, Darren. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot. But the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask why. We really don't quite know the reason. It could be perhaps that his shoes were too tight, or maybe his head just wasn't screwed on just right. But I think that the most likely reason of all was that the Grinch's heart was a few sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve hating the Whos. For he knew every Who down in Whoville below was busy hanging a hollyhoo wreath. And they're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas. It's practically here. Then he growled with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming, I must find a way to keep Christmas from coming. For tomorrow, I know all the Who girls and boys will wake bright and early to play with their toys. And then, oh, the noise. There's one thing I can't stand, it's the noise, noise, noise. Then the Whos, young and old, will sit down to a feast. And they'll feast, and they'll feast, and they'll feast, feast, feast. And then they'll do something I hate most of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, they'll stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'll stand hand in hand, and they'll all start singing. And they'll sing, and they'll sing, and they'll sing, sing, sing. And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years, I've put up with it now. I must stop Christmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea, an awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do. The Grinch laughed in his throat. I'll make a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. And then he chuckled and clucked. What a great Grinchy trick. With this coat and this hat, I'll look just like Saint Nick. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh, and he whistled for Max. Then the Grinch said, giddy up, and the sleigh started down towards the homes where the Whos lay a snooze in their town. This is stop number 1, the old Grinchy Claus hissed as he climbed the roof, empty bags in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch, but if Santa could do it, so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once, for a minute or two. Then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue, where the little Who stockings all hung in a row. These stockings, he grinched, are the first thing to go. Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant around the whole room, and he took every present. Then the Grinch, very nimbly, stuffed all the bags, one by one, up the chimney. Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beast. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. Now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree. As the Grinch took the tree, as he started to shove, he heard a small coo, like the sound of a dove. He turned around fast, and he saw a small Who, little Cindy Lou who was no more than 2. She stared at the Grinch and she said, Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why? But you know, that old Grinch was so smart and so slick. He thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick. Why, my sweet little tot, the fake Santa Claus lied. There's a light on this tree that won't light on one side. I'm taking it from here to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, and I'll bring it back here. His fib fooled the child. Then he patted her head, and he got her a drink, and he sent her to bed. When Cindy Lou Who was asleep with her cup, he crept to the chimney and he stuffed the tree up. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar, and the last thing he took was the log for their fire. On their walls, he left nothing but hooks and some wire, and the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was too small even for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs much too small for their mouses. It was 1:15. All the Who's still in bed. All the Who's still a snooze when he packed up his sled. 10,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet, he rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. Pooh-hoo to the Who's, he was grinchily humming. They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open for a minute or two. Then the Who's down in Whoville will all cry, boo-hoo. That's a noise, grinned the Grinch, that I simply must hear. He paused, and the Grinch put his hand to his ear. And he did hear a sound. Rising over the snow, it started in low, then it started to grow. But this sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound sounded glad. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came somehow or another. It came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could this be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. He puzzled and puzzled until his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. maybe Christmas perhaps, is a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the true meaning of Christmas came through, and the Grinch found strength of 10 Grinches plus 2. And now that his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light. With a smile in his soul, he descended Mount Crumpet, cheerfully blowing hoo-hoo on his trumpet. He rode into Whoville. He brought back their toys. He brought back their floof to the boys and the girls. He brought everything back, all the food for their feast. And the Grinch even got to carve the roast beast. Welcome, Christmas. Bring your cheer. Cheer to all who's far and near. Christmas Day is in our grasp, so long as we have hands to grasp. Christmas Day will always be just as long as we have we. Welcome Christmas while we stand, heart in heart and hand in hand. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Rick. I have 1 minute for the evaluator, please. The next portion of our meeting is the evaluation portion. And to me, this is the thing that really separates Toastmasters from other organizations, because our prepared speakers will now have the opportunity to be evaluated by other members of our club and to hear the things they did well in the speech, as well as a couple things they could possibly improve upon. And our first evaluator for today will be Rick Barron, and Rick will evaluate Chris Tehan's speech. Please welcome Rick Barron.
Thank you. The $102 turkey dinner. Outstanding speech from Chris Tehan. This is project number 2 in the Competent Communicator Manual, where Chris is to organize his speech. Some of his objectives were to lead the audience to a clearly defined goal, to have a beginning, body, and conclusion, to some major facts and ideas with some supporting material and smooth transitions. Let me tell you, when we started off, the title, the $102 turkey dinner, I thought we were going to hear a speech about how much it cost to put a meal on the table for 8 people, 10 people, 12 people, however many people you had at your turkey dinner. But when you held up the speeding ticket, I think every one of us has seen one of these before. I don't know anybody who's driving or who has driven who has never gotten a speeding ticket. And so right away it was a great visual aid to help me and maybe some of the rest of the audience say, hey, this isn't about turkey dinner, this is about the trip to get to the turkey dinner. And that helped me understand, or a little bit later I understood, that the goal of your speech really was in the discussion that you wove in about your wife and breaking the streak, and that the goal was really that you can't get away with breaking the law forever. At least that's what I took out of as kind of the lesson from the speech that you gave. So very good preparation. There was a little bit of use of notes, so it wasn't a story that you were really intimate with, but you did a great job of only using your notes when you really had to. The speech was organized very well. A great opening, moved into the body where you talked about the 3 things that we should do, and then an absolutely excellent summary. The only thing that I took away that what I would have liked to seen maybe as a room for improvement is to use a little bit more vocal variety when you're giving the speech. You know, raise your voice a little, lower your voice, quiet it down a little, speed up, slow down, that you can really use your voice as a great way to help make points and to help the audience understand the points that you're trying to make. Overall, the conclusion was very good. in terms of the "you are correct, dear," reinforcing that message of you can't get away with breaking the law forever, and good humor throughout it. It was good to see the audience got some of the humorous points that you made, and you made us chuckle. Overall, I'd say this feels more like a fifth or sixth speech rather than just the second speech. Great job, Chris.
Thank you, Rick. Our next evaluator, who will actually be evaluating Rick, will be Carol Kormalink. So please welcome Carol Kormalink. Thank you, Carol.
Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Rick. How the Grinch Stole Christmas. This was an excellent speech. I was so caught up in it that I forgot the time and let you know when your first indication came, when your 7 minutes were up. I like that the story rhymed, but you didn't do it in a sing-song emotion. It sort of just flowed. You told a story and brought out its glory. I thought your pauses were very effective, and when you inserted them, in fact, I couldn't find anything that I thought you needed to improve on, because you talked loud, soft, fast, and slow. As to the volume, it really did grow. Your body language to emphasize the words was very good when you did the facial grimace with the little lip sticking out for the boo-hoo. I thought that was really, you puckered out lip with never a slip. Was the speaker successful? Absolutely. And Christmas is truly in the heart, and that is absolutely the very best part. And I could visualize when you used the little play on words, the roast beast. I thought that was clever, in a quarter of dawn. I thought all those little nuances were very clever. I enjoyed the speech tremendously and thought you did a very good story and excellent storytelling there. Thank you, Rick. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Carol. And Carol is actually our timer, so I'm actually going to ask Carol to come back up. I'll give her a few minutes to get her paper together. Ask Carol to come back up and give us our timer's report. Thank you.
Thank you. Our timing today, we stayed within time pretty much of the way. The table topics is 1 to 2 minutes. I took approximately 2 minutes. No one was timing me, and it seemed like I talked forever, so I'd say at least 2 minutes. Darren, your table topic on your Kindle Fire, which I'm interested in a Kindle too, and my grandson says you can't, you wouldn't be able to operate it, Mom, because I want to do notes on it. I want to do my speeches off of the Kindle. You were 124 in your reply, and Chris, in your reply on your new beginnings in moving Cincinnati, 1 minute and 23 seconds. Very good. You're getting there. Your speech was to be a 5 to 7 minute speech. It was 4 minutes and 9 seconds. Rick's speech was to be a 7 to 9 minute, and it was 10 minutes and 9 seconds, which I wouldn't have cared if it was even longer. It was so good. As the general evaluator, I wasn't timing you, Darren. Rick's evaluation for Chris was 3 minutes and 10 seconds, and my evaluation for Rick was 1 minute and 34 seconds. And that is my report on the timing for the day. We did very well. And I'm trying to remember to look the eyes down and not the head down.
Thank you, Carol. Just a couple brief comments about the meeting. This was somewhat of an abbreviated meeting today. It's our Thursday meetings, which often are a little bit shorter than our Saturday meetings. However, I thought we did not, what we lacked in meeting time, I don't think we lacked in entertainment. I thought we had 2 excellent speeches. I learned a couple interesting things. Not that I didn't know that you have to slow down, but it's been many years since I've gotten a ticket, so it was probably a good reminder that as soon as you let your guard down, that's when you end up getting a ticket. So I'm going to do a lot of driving at the end of this month, so it's probably a good reminder that I need to watch my speed. And Rick, And Chris, I really enjoyed the speech. I thought, once again, just as Rick mentioned, I thought it was a very good speech, very good job. And Rick, I really enjoyed your speech. I think, and I've actually shied away from the storytelling manuals because as difficult as it may be to prepare a speech, it's actually very difficult to read someone else's story and try to make it entertaining. And I thought, particularly a story that most of us have probably heard or seen many, many times, I thought you did an excellent job. I thought you made it very interesting. It was very clear, and as Carol mentioned, when you read Dr. Seuss, you can really get into the rhyming to the point where it becomes very strange, so to speak. I thought you did a very good job of presenting that in a way which was very entertaining to all of us. And it did remind me of something I mentioned earlier that I don't think I've actually shown my son How the Grinch Stole Christmas recently, so maybe I'll try that one. So, see, a lot of good things came out of this meeting. As far as the evaluations, Rick, I thought you were, one thing I will say, I guess, to begin with, is one thing I know I'm very bad about when I give an evaluation is, one thing we strive to do is to read the goal of the speech prior to giving the evaluation. I think that's one thing we forgot in both cases this time. But Rick, I thought your evaluation was straight on. There's really nothing I would have added to the feedback you gave to Chris. I thought it was very good. And Carol, good feedback for Rick. And of course, I have to give you kudos for rhyming during the evaluation. And Carol was feverishly writing, and now I understand why she was so concentrating on trying to get her evaluation down, because she was trying to rhyme her evaluation, which I think we'll have to play back for the other members, because that is actually a first, the rhyming evaluation. So definitely extra points on that. But overall, I think it was a very good meeting, very entertaining meeting. And with that, I will just take one more opportunity to invite our television audience to join us. As I said, the first Thursday at 6 p.m. or the third Saturday of each month at 9 a.m. We meet at the Anderson Town Center, which is right off of Beachmont Road in Anderson, Ohio, 7850 5 Mile Road. And with that, I'd like to thank the TV audience for joining us. Thanks to all our members. And with that, I will adjourn the meeting of Club 9523.
Name an effective political leader in history who couldn't speak well. There aren't any.
Because when it comes to a disease,
Freedom requires leadership, and leadership requires oratory. You have to speak to be heard.
I have a dream.
It's all about personal growth and guts.
Never give in. Never, never, never.